Last year's summer experience of Croatian national team at the World Cup will be remembered not only for the historic result, but also because of the effort of the players, especially in the final phase with all those extra times, penalties. How, from your perspective, your role within the coaching staff, it looked like? Did you think they have enough fuel in themselves to achieve that historic result?
Well, it's never easy, and every game is difficult, and nobody can maintain the top level through the whole game and through the whole tournament. But it's important to stay close to that top level. And of course, when you think about recovery, when you think about everything that is necessary, it's a lot of work. And we tried to do all those things which could help them to perform as best as they can. It's easier to recover after victory, so we were fortunate enough to win, and then it's a little bit easier, but still we did many things. We developed certain protocols for recovery to be able to perform the next game. It wasn't easy, and as you said, we had fuel. It's never enough, but I think we managed to do a good job in recovery and also in achieving good fitness level.
I would like to ask you about the final days of the World Cup, the preparations for the final game against France, especially after such a demanding game against England, and the way the team responded to losing position and the way they achieved the result with all that effort. Could you say what was crucial during those final days?
Well, we just maintained our protocols. What do we do first day after the game, second day after the game, and then before the next game? So in top-level sport, there's no time for euphoria and no time for depression. You just have to do your work, your job every day. You have to have these protocols, what you do in certain times of day, in certain times of week, and you just stick to that. Of course, when you play this big of games, it's not always easy to maintain focus only on your job, but I think the players did just that. And even though we played extra game, because we had 3 extra times, even with that, I think we performed fitness-wise. Of course, we performed, I think, on good level in the final. Of course, in top-level sport, you have 100 factors for success, and you can control 60. So we tried really to those 60 to have under control, but it's still 40 left which are not under your control. You can hope for the best, of course. You can do what you can. I think the whole staff, the football staff, the medical staff, the conditioning staff, I think we all did a pretty good job, and this was really close to maximum.
One of the top outstanding performers in your team was Luka Modric. How it is to work with him on daily basis during such important tournament?
He, just like many top-level players, he has his own habits. He knows what he likes to train additionally besides team training session. He knows what he likes to eat. He knows how his day should look like 3 days before the game, 2 days, 1 day before the game day. So these are all top-level professionals who really know their bodies. And for me, it was easy to work with these guys because they are professionals. And also they have their own personal trainers, which I know and I contact. And all 3 of us, of course, talk about that additional part of training, additional part of day. And when a top-level player like that sees that he has around him team which is knowledgeable, which is tolerant, which is normal, character-wise, then he's open for everything, and he feels good and he plays good.
Could you say, on his example, what kind of small little things any player can pick up and use in their preparation, in their daily basis trainings?
Everything he does 100%. So whatever you do, be here and now, be focused maximally. From what I saw in my career, all the top level players have that. All the best players are most focused. When I'm here with you, I only think about this discussion. When I'm on the pitch, I only think about that. So, you have some extraordinary examples of that. For example, Mario Mandzukic, who, when he's on the pitch, he's going 100% every second of every training session. So this is just the way he does it. Maybe that's why he scores the most important goal in Croatian football history, against England. Because when he's on the pitch, he's 100% focused, 100% of intensity, everything on the top. And all the top level players have that maximal focus, everyday focus on most important things.
Modern football is all about intensity, as Croatia showed at last year's World Cup. Could you say from your perspective how it changed over last 10 years, for example?
Yes, intensity and also frequency of games. Probably in the future we will see even more games. And that's why we talk a lot about recovery. And that's why it's important not only to perform that day, but also to recover, to be able to perform after 3 days. So I think that's also an important topic and important thing to consider for the future. The frequency of these games. Of course, in single game, we see a lot of high-speed running. We see a lot of accelerations, decelerations, and those are maybe the most fatiguing part of the football match, definitely. High-intensity running and changes of direction.
What are the reserves in the players? You say that there will be more matches in the future. There will be, definitely. But where players can find reserves within themselves, given how they have to perform on top level every 3 days?
Well, lifestyle is a crucial part of performance. Lifestyle can involve nutrition, rest, and additional training sessions, additional individualized training sessions. So in future, individualization is going to be very, very important. We will probably see even more top players who have their own individual personal staff, personal nutritionist, personal trainer, personal physiotherapist, personal chef maybe. So we will see more of that because lifestyle is the most important thing if you want to play long, if you want to have a long career. And now we see players who play until they're 37, 38 sometimes. You can't do that without perfect lifestyle. So family life is part of that. And lifestyle, these 3 components, additional training sessions, food and rest. So this is going to be even more detailed. This is going to be even more monitored and even more individualized.
Is it possible, fitness-wise, intensity-wise, to squeeze more from nowadays top players like Modric, like Mandzukic?
Well, it's always possible to squeeze a little bit more, but with squeezing comes a bigger risk. So that's normal part of top level sport. Yes, it's possible to squeeze a little bit more, but the risk is increasing a lot at big rate, at high rate, if you squeeze a little bit more. Because today players have a huge number of games, and that becomes, a bit of problem, not only physically but also mentally. And you have to perform on top level twice a week, which is not easy. And actually, the number of weeks of 2 games per week is one of the most important factors of health or injury risk. So now players have many weeks like that, and probably in the future we'll have few weeks more. So it's possible to squeeze a little bit more, but we have to realize that carries a high amount of risk.
During your presentation, you talked a lot about how the players, modern football players, have to look like. Will that look change in the future, perhaps, to more physical or perhaps to less physical?
Well, they have to be physically optimal. So bigger muscle mass doesn't mean anything. Sometimes it's counterproductive for football. So it has to be good balance of muscle mass and good balance of all other qualities. So it depends on the position. It depends on genetics, but we see that football players have morphological status, which is kind of combination between sprinters and endurance athletes, with low body fat, with incredible endurance, but also with really, really high speed and explosiveness.
Could you say what role science and data analysis played in your job during the World Cup, during your work with the Croatian national team?
Analysis is important, but I think you have to be careful, because today, after each training session, you can get a book of parameters and data. And if you go through all of that data, it's not really efficient. So we have to be wise about selection of certain parameters that we will follow. I like to follow only the parameters which can help me in decision making. I like to also test only the things which will affect my programming and also decision making. So everything I do, everything I analyze, I want to analyze it because it's going to help me to make wiser decisions. Not analyze because of analysis, but analyze because of applicability in my team.
How your work looked like in cooperation with the head coach, because it must have been very important to, after gathering all those data, all those informations, looking at the players, implement them then in the training sessions between the games.
This is exactly the reason why we have to be selective, of course. I am fortunate to have top-level boss who knows what he wants, who already has a lot of experience, and who already knows which data is important for him. So for me, that was a blessing to have that kind of boss who understands what he needs. And then for me, it's easier to give him that, and maybe sometimes to give him a little bit extra because it's important, not only because of the data.
You spoke a lot about the role of awareness of top football players. What would you advise to younger players, perhaps starting their careers? What can they do to move that awareness to another level?
To educate themselves, to ask questions, to be curious, not only about football, but to be curious about life, about anything. Because when you work on yourself, when you develop in other areas, you also get better in your job, in football. I would tell them to take care of their lifestyle. Of course, when you are 16, 17, 18, you still don't realize what it means to have optimal sleep, optimal food intake and stuff like that, hydration, supplementation, taking care of your body, having regular massage, having somebody to give you advice, having maybe psychologist to help you with stress management or whatever your problem is. So I would advise them to be curious about all aspects of athlete's life which can help them perform.
The final question will be again about Luka Modric. How far he, at his age right now, still can go?
He still has a lot of fuel in him, a lot of fire in him, a lot of ambition in him. So physically, I think he has 3 or 4 years on top level still. I mean, top level. So he has, but why? Because he has fire and ambition. And then when you have that, that means you take care of yourself, you have quality lifestyle, and you have optimal mental approach to your work.